Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their natal Jupiter in the sign of Leo. Leo is a fixed fire sign, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius, another fire sign. So there's that positivity times, 100 when you combine these two elements together. And Jupiter is all about expansion. Fire is all about expansion, actually. So it works very well. It is considered rather neutral to have Jupiter in Leo. It's neither the best or the worst. But one thing that we can talk about when we talk about Jupiter is this idea of growth, this idea of optimism, good luck. And, I've been kind of deciding for myself, what exactly is luck? Is it intuitive knowing that, you're kind of like doing something at the right time and that makes it happen? So it's like a heightened intuition. Is it just random? See, I don't believe that life is random. So I have to believe that what we call luck is really divinely ordained in some way. If you want to say our higher selves are orchestrating it, who knows? But the point is that I feel like we have to open ourselves to luck a lot of times, and that there's a positivity there, where you believe that it's even possible for you to experience luck or that you deserve it. So it's kind of fun to play around with these ideas in any case. But luck is associated with Jupiter, and with Leo, we're talking about the ruler of the fifth house. We're talking about what the fifth house represents. So Leo is ruled by the sun, and in the tarot, the sun card is considered probably the most positive, or definitely one of the most positive major arcana cards. And it's all about creative self-expression. And what Leo represents is pleasure, joy, just kind of like unbridled joy. The fifth house can be like fun things that you're doing, parties, any kind of entertainment, but also what you're giving to the world in terms of your own creativity to create entertainment. So Leo is the natural actor, the natural, performer, and the fifth house is about children. I'm saying the fifth house because Leo rules that house. So looking at it from that angle. But anyway, in talking about what makes a person more lucky in life by embracing the Leo energy, this will, anytime that you are generous, because Leo is a very generous sign, you're going to, I think, just increase your good fortune. They always say that if you're generous, then you get back more than, what you give or something like that. But some people can be very calculated about that, calculating and saying, okay, well, I'm going to give this, I'm going to get back this. And they're like really looking, there's still a selfish motive there. People who are truly generous have no need for somebody to give them something back, because they're coming from a place of great wealth within themselves. And this is one of the reasons why you can have people who have very little and they are extremely generous. We've heard that expression, giving the shirt off your back. That's kind of what some people are, and they're not thinking in terms of like, oh, well, I'm going to get. They're going to, feel obligated. That's not generosity. That's being very calculated, or manipulation, That's manipulation. So you're the kind of person, you just have a naturally, you have to kind of, I think, embrace this and gravitate towards it fully to activate it, perhaps. And especially if your sun sign is in a more conservative sign, Like, for instance, when I say conservative, conserving things, preserving, conserving, not just being selfish, but being more frugal because you're looking at the future and saying, well, what if something happens, or I have to save for when I'm old and I can't work anymore. Those kinds of thoughts going through people's heads. So I'm talking about Sun in Cancer, Sun in Capricorn, Sun in Aquarius is even co-ruled by Saturn. There are certain signs that are going to be pretty restrictive financially, and so the Virgo can be kind of just because they like to be very simple in their lifestyle and not extravagant. Leo is very extravagant. So there may be a clash between these two influences. By the way, it's important to note that Jupiter is not a personal planet. So, but as per usual, when I'm looking through these online sources to kind of, get my keywords to talk about, one of the things is there's always going to be contradictions. There's always going to be, one site that says one thing and then the other site says something else. So there was one site that was talking about Jupiter in Leo's effect on the personality. And so I go along with those who think that it's more of a it's not it's more of a it's not a generational planet because it only affects people born within 1 year, which is not a generation. The real outer planets would be Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, because they're like 15-year cycles. Uranus is less. Yeah, good point. Maybe Uranus isn't. I know it's considered like more of an outer planet, but 7 years is still, that's a longer time than 1 year. Jupiter is like 12 months, 13 months, something like that. That everybody born in your basic year is going to have the same Jupiter. So that's not going to lead to much individual influence on personality per se. This is where the natal chart comes in. When you look at where Jupiter is located in your chart, that will give you more of a personalized influence. But for this particular reading, we're just talking about everybody who has their natal Jupiter in Leo. And but still that exerts some influence, and I think Vedic astrology may give a greater prominence and influence to Jupiter. There may be some like valid points in that. I did read a book. There's a book out there. I don't know the name of it, but it's all about Jupiter and its luck for you, and it gets very extensive. So definitely check out Amazon. I'm sure they have it there. I tried to check it out at the library again, and it was already taken out. So because I was going to use it for this reading, but so I just ended up looking at stuff online. But in any case, so generosity is always going to be the key for you in life, and not just in terms of material resources, but your own attitudes towards people. So for instance, going back to your sun sign, and by the way, it doesn't have to be just your sun sign, it could be your moon sign, because your moon sign or even Mercury, the way that you think and the way that you feel affects how you relate to others. So if you have the moon and or Mercury in, or sun, sun too, because that'll be your core personality, in Capricorn, you may have cynicism towards the human race. Or Scorpio. I forgot to say that, like if your sun is in Scorpio with Jupiter and Leo in terms of generosity, you might be kind of conservative in holding on to your money more. And that's a greater challenge for you. But also generosity in human spirit, where you think the best of others. There is the ability to think the best in others and not be a chump. And that's the key. It's a fine line sometimes where you can get fooled by other people because of believing that they have good intentions towards you, and finding out that they are, that they wanted something, that they were they're being calculated in their approach. But it still applies regardless. And some people are very harsh in their judgment of others. And if somebody shows weakness, they immediately judge them and have a great disregard for them. And I feel that that is unfortunate, to look at others in that way. So the bottom line is about being much more willing to approach things from a perspective of, giving them the benefit of the doubt and seeing the good in people. I think that's a really great trait to have. And I think that people with Jupiter and Leo, this is what makes them such great leaders. And so assuming leadership roles. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who has this placement has to do that. If your sun is in the 12th house, if your sun is in Virgo, or a sign like that, you may not really want that kind of job, or if this is even like a volunteer position, that kind of a status or responsibility. So it's just more, I would say, more than an outer kind of a leadership, kind of exuding the vibe of somebody who is the master of their destiny, the master of the captain of their ship, who has a strong sense of self. I think that that can definitely substitute for actually leading other people. Because a good leader is not interested in self-aggrandizement or control, power over others. That's not what being a leader is. The main quality that I think a leader possesses is inspiration. And seeing the good in people, seeing their talents, bringing out their talents. And sometimes the people may not realize they have these talents, and it's reflected back to them. The sun shines on others. And in Jupiter, the sun is magnified. In Jupiter and Leo, the sun is magnified. Let's see, what else? By the way, I'm scrolling down the astrocodex.com just to get some ideas, and rather than taking notes and this is just cutting to the chase and looking at some of the things that they're talking about. I'm really just expounding on them anyway, rather than just reading off of a page. I'm just getting the ideas. So another thing that I touched upon is that the person with this position may be very creative. And that is something, creativity is something that people lose or put on the shelf, I think, when they get to be 18 or adults, if they're not planning to go into show business or become a painter in a garret or something like that. They just put it away because they think, okay, now it's time to focus on college or focus on my job. And they start to lose that. Well, if you're one of those people, or maybe you think, well, I don't have artistic talent. But, there's always something that we can do that is creative. And it can be something crafty. If you're good at making things, if you're like an amateur carpenter, maybe you worked with your dad as a teenager and he taught you the ropes, or mother, I guess mother could be a carpenter too, right? But anybody, somebody that taught you how to build simple things, and you can do that as a hobby. But that's a form of creativity. But there's really this, with Leo, there's this desire to show off in some way. So if I distill that quality and talk about it just in general terms, we talk about the antithesis of that, which would be to kind of hide oneself. So, especially if your sun is in the 12th house, because the sun is a ruler of Leo, and, it is that, you know, that identity and wanting to kind of radiate that identity to the world. And your sun is in the 12th house, your sun is in a sign like Pisces or Virgo or something that kind of doesn't like to draw attention to itself, even Cancer or something like that. You become lucky when you break free of that self-consciousness and you step outside of your comfort zone. That will, for people like you, that will be stepping outside of your comfort zone. Now, a prime example of this is if you are actually very talented. Like, for instance, I'm sure that there are painfully shy people who are very gifted when it comes to the theater. I actually knew a man who was very emotive, expressive on stage. And when I talked to him off stage, or when I observed him off stage, he would shrink up. He would become contracted. And it was so funny because it was like he was extremely within himself and shy. But at the same time, when he came alive, when he went on that stage. But who knows if you're that type of person, if you've never taken the risk. Maybe you have a great singing voice and you sing in the shower, or you might have people that you jam with and you do it in kind of somebody's living room or something like that, but you're terrified of being on stage, or maybe that was something you did when you were younger and you kind of downplay it, don't think it really matters. I would say that it does matter, and that you will feel alive, and that it will attract other good things to you if you go and do that again, if you haven't done that for a long time. So I just want to encourage people. I think that creativity is one of those things that gets really dismissed in our culture. Or maybe I'm just thinking in terms of the American culture versus maybe in Europe it's a lot more validated and appreciated overall, and other countries. I know Europe is a continent, so don't diss me. So I'm trying to think I'm just scrolling here to think if there's anything else that I wanted to say. I think I've basically covered it. And they have, like, I'm going to paste some of the rough year. They're saying roughly the periods of time when Jupiter was transiting through Leo. And they start in the 50s, as if nobody reading their material is older than 60, mid 60s, which I think that they should, have it before then, but I'll just include that. And the other thing too is that they're saying roughly, probably because there are some retrograde periods in between. So I'm just going to do this as a benefit to those who need it. And, well, you know what I think I'm just going to do? I'm just going to link the tables that they use. Actually, it isn't from this site. It's from cafeastrology.com that I will link those so that you can see exactly when it is. But it's good to have your time of birth because, Jupiter does change signs on certain days, and then you don't know what time of the day it changes. But if Jupiter changed signs on the day that you were born, I would definitely listen to both Jupiter signs. So in any case, I hope that you received something positive from this, that it resonated with you. And if you'd like a private reading, the online link to my offerings is below. Something like that. So check it out. And, thank you for listening. Bye.